Hello and welcome back to Guided Hacking. This is PEiD, and today we're going to be taking a look at some tips and tricks and tools you can use to find out what an unknown file is. Here on my desktop within Kali, we have a unknown.file. And this file, we don't know exactly what it is because it doesn't have an extension on the end of it. So the first tool I will show you is a common tool that comes on most Linux boxes, and that is the command file. And file will just tell you what a file is. And we can run that on the unknown file, and we can see the output is ms-dos executable p32 executable. And basically what this is saying is that it is a Microsoft executable or a .exe. So let's move on to the next tool. Our next tool is TRID, File Identifier, and TRID is a utility designed to identify file types from their binary signatures, and it does this by looking at a database of definitions which describe recurring patterns for supported file types, and then it compares the selected file against this database of patterns to try and guess what it may be. And so in my folder that contains TRID, we have an unknown file here. I'm going to find out what it is by first running trid.exe and then pointing it to the unknown.file. And having run trid, we can see that it detects the file as either a FreeBASIC Win32 executable, and then it also has more hits for other forms of executable. So this can indicate to us that it may be some kind of executable. So let's go on to the next tool. One of the most important tools on the list is going to be Binwalk. And Binwalk is a tool that will walk through a binary file, and instead of just trying to determine what the binary file is, it will attempt to find different files within one binary file. Now, this isn't so common when you're looking at a file such as an image or an executable, because usually these binary files will just contain what is common for an executable or an image, and they won't contain any files within them. But Binwalk is great for things like firmware analysis, where you will have one file, which is the firmware for something like a router, and within this router firmware, it will then contain all kinds of different subfiles that it's all packed into one file. So to run Binwalk, all you have to do is you just put in Binwalk and then point it to your file. This is firmware for a router. And once we press enter, we can see that at the offset of 0, it has a uimage header. And this outlines the entry point and information about that uimage, stating that it has an image type of an OS kernel image and the compression type of LZMA, and it's a Linux kernel image. Then going on at the offset of OX40 or the decimal offset of 64, it says that there is LZMA compressed data, shows some properties about it. What's very important here and to take note of is the dictionary size here and the uncompressed size here. Then it also goes on to say that there is also a squash fs file system that is little endian with a non-standard signature and with the following version and size. So, looking at this, between the offset of OX40 and OX120,000, that there is an LZMA compressed data here. So what you can do is you can use a tool such as cut or any other kind of hexd or hex editor tool to extract what is between this offset, and that'll be your LZMA compressed data. So you can carve out the data from a single image by using the information provided by Binwalk. Binwalk also offers some options to automatically extract known file types and also try to carve out data from files. You can also specify all kinds of different things such as opcodes or magic, and this allows for you to specify custom file signatures, which may be common within things such as a CTF. I really recommend, if you're looking at firmware or unknown files, to check out Binwalk. It can usually save you a lot of time trying to find out what a file is. But let's move on to our next tool. very useful for malware analysis is PEiD. And what PEiD will do is it will scan a file for known packers or cryptors. So if you find a piece of malware that is packed or crypted, PEiD contains something like 450 different signatures for very common packers. And this way you can just scan a file and it will detect what it is and may show you what packer is being used. And from there you can easily research that packer to be able to try and bypass it or unpack the file. A tool that I go on and on about, and you'll definitely know if you've watched any of my previous videos, is Detect-It-Easy. And Detect-It-Easy is similar to PEiD, but is more maintained and is my go-to for detecting what a file may be. Now, it's mainly made for detecting executables and is used for malware analysis, but it can be applied to practically any kind of file. But to show it off at its full potential, I'm going to drag in an executable, and you can see within the GUI that it shows off that it is a .NET file, it's using the Microsoft linker, and then it also has a massive database of all kinds of different signatures. Of course, looking through these signatures, they are mainly going to be binary signatures and signatures for development languages such as Forland and a few other things. And if you wanted to, you can also create your own signature and add it to this so that you can detect things that you may have seen and want to detect in the future. A huge part of Detect-It-Easy is its massive signature library of cryptors, and you can see all of these different packers that it supports, and it also supports some of the most common cryptors as well, such as Babel, and other protectors such as Sigwin and others, and ConfuserX up here as well. Within the GUI, you also have things such as strings, the hash, MIME, entropy, which is super useful to see if data is packed, and you can see that it gives you a status here that tells you if something is packed or not. It's detecting this malware as packed, and it quite likely is. So I really recommend this if you are looking at executables or doing any kind of reverse engineering. Last but not least, I just want to point out that you don't always have to rely on tools. You can also do it the old way of opening up a file within a hex editor, looking at the decoded text and seeing if you see strings or if the data looks garbled. And you can also take a look at the Magic Bytes. Magic Bytes are bytes within a file which will determine and help a file system or an OS determine what the file is and what it should open the file with. So you can take these first few bytes and then you can copy and paste them into a browser or into a search engine, and you may be lucky enough to find that they match on a search. And you can see for these bytes that they come up instantly, and you can look at the results and you may find some documentation on what they may be, and this can certainly help you finding few more niche file types that might not be covered by the signatures and the tools I showed previously. Anyway, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next one, goodbye. If you enjoyed this video, a like would help a lot, and subscribe to be notified of future uploads. If you haven't already, check out guidedhacking.com for a step-by-step introduction to game hacking and an ever-growing catalog of content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.